Public procurement accounts for up to 20% of the global GDP, and 50% of the procurement decisions are taken by local governments. So those include procurement, of course, of buildings, but also furniture, food, packaging, and it goes also beyond that because we also have as cities and regional governments the task to invite innovative solutions into the urban and regional ecosystem. Unfortunately, our keynote speaker got ill tonight, Samira Bussetti from DJ Group, who is a policy officer working on innovative and sustainable procurement. However, we have very great group of experts here that can cover, I think, also all of the aspects that she wanted to discuss today. So we will make sure to transfer the slides of Samira after this session. But now I would love to introduce this panel. I'm very happy to welcome the chair of the next panel, which is Camilla Sandberg. Camilla works as an innovation consultant at Bax Company, managing, developing, and contributing to European projects related to circular, green, smart, and livable cities through public procurement, digital innovation, and human and nature-centered urban planning. For the last 3.5 years, Camilla has been supporting the ProCirc project, and specifically she has worked closely with project partners to facilitate peer learning and to collect and analyze the lessons learned from the more than 30 circular procurement pilots. Camilla has expertise in the field of circular economy and sustainable consumption, as well as production, and specifically focusing on international consumer goods value chains. She has been also responsible for CSR and sustainability at a Swedish fashion company for 4 years. And as such, I'm handing towards you and to introduce your panel.
I can make this work. Okay. Good morning, everyone, and thank you for this introduction, Johanna. And I am very excited to be here and talking about circular procurement, which indeed it relates very nicely to the previous session and also the transition towards the city of Malmö and the question on how can a public organization really support the circular economy transition through involving more innovative solutions, but also using the solutions that are out there. We know that there are a lot of circular solutions, circular goods and services that are offered on the market, but what can the public sector do to stimulate this, where procurement is a very powerful tool. So for instance, with the city of Malmö and with Circular Flanders that we will hear today, I've been working on the project how we can
Can you hear me? Perfect. Good morning, everyone. My name is Alexandra Vandevyvere, and I am delighted and honored to be part of this distinguished panel. I am working at Circular Flanders, and we are a proud partner in the ProCirc project. I have experience in circular procurement, and I have worked extensively on the subject of organizational change. Okay. Well, Circular Flanders is a public-private partnership that acts as a facilitator in the transition towards a circular economy in the Flanders region of Belgium. We bring together stakeholders from government agencies, companies, businesses, civil society, and research institutions, all with the aim to collaborate and work together on common goals regarding the circular economy. I've highlighted the word facilitator in the slide you can see, since I think it's a common thread throughout my personal and professional life. Circular Flanders works as a facilitator, but also the ProCirc project facilitates the knowledge sharing, collaboration, innovation, policy development, and capacity building, all with the aim of promoting the adoption of circular procurement practices. And I, in my role as a facilitator, strive to optimize knowledge sharing in both directions. Circular procurement is a powerful tool to promote the transition towards a circular economy, as it incentivizes circular business practices, drives innovation, and creates a strong market demand for circular products and services. together we can all facilitate the adoption of circular procurement practices and work towards a more circular future. Thank you.
Alexandra. And next on our panel, we have Helena from...
Hello, good morning. So I'm Helena O'Rourke and I'm a circular economy and procurement officer. So my background is not very linear, as you can see. I have a background in geography and political science. And then you discover that there's no such job as a geographer. So I worked in different organizations in Brussels and abroad, mostly on environmental policy, regional policy, climate and energy. But then suddenly I stumbled on the concept of circular economy, which as a geographer looking at resources and resource use made a lot of sense. So I instinctively moved towards that field. And I previously worked at the Helena Foundation, where I was analyzing circular economy policies across the world at the international, national, and city level. I helped the development of the Universal Circular Economy Policy Goals report. And then through my work at the Helena Foundation, I randomly started working on procurement, which also made sense because, as mentioned in the introduction, procurement is a powerful tool that cities and all cities across the world can procure. So I developed this framework on circular procurement for cities. And then just over a year and a half ago, I started working at ICLEI on circular public procurement. I provide sort of advice and expertise to different projects that you can kind of see there. There's a bit more. Sort of helping cities adopt more circular practices so they can enable and scale the transition. So this is me.
Yeah, thank you very much. I'm Sabine Herrmann, working for the city of Hamburg in the Deciso project, which we already heard about today, since May, so quite new. And before that, I was working for Hamburg University of Technology in different projects in waste management and renewable energies. And my academic background is, I have a bachelor in European studies and a master in economics, and I focused on the economics of renewable energies. So, and yeah, thank you. And my colleague, Stephanie.
Thank you very much. My name is Stephanie Keßler, also working at the Senate Chancellery at the city of Hamburg. I'm a colleague of Sabine. I started working at the city of Hamburg 3 years ago, switching to the Senate Chancellery only in March this year, taking over the Deciso project. I'm also a geographer, by the way. Very interesting. I've worked mainly in mobility projects, so I'm not a specialist in circular economy. I'll probably become one in the course of this project. And yeah, delighted to be on this panel and hope to be able to answer some of the questions regarding public procurement, which we obviously do in the city of Hamburg. Yeah, we have small but some experience. And
Thank you for these introductions. We will jump now to the questions for the panel and the topic of circular. Okay, now I hope you can hear me. So now we will move into some of the questions that we have prepared. I think we have the first questions for you, Helena, and these are a bit more on the practical experiences of working with circular procurement. I know you are involved in a project called the City Loops, where you are working with public entities on the construction sector and bio-waste specifically, where you have some success factors and some specific experiences that you would like to share with us.
So City Loops is a project where we are working closely with 7 cities across Europe, and we're looking at implementing demonstration projects on bio-waste and circular waste. So a lot of these projects look at what the city is collecting in terms of bio-waste. So it can be grasses from municipal parks, etc., or the production of kombucha or biochar. And in the construction sector, we're looking at mostly pre-demolition audits to see what parts of the building should be destroyed or reused, etc. So maybe if I can have one slide. Yes. So one of the demonstration projects in one of the cities is the city of Bordeaux, which is 30 kilometers north of the Arctic Circle. And this very small town, well, quite small, has 2 airports. The area in yellow is a civil airport. And then the area in this grayish in the south is the military NATO airport, which is the most northern airport in the world. And that military airport will be moved further up north in the coming years. So the city wants to move its civil airport to the current military airport and transform what used to be an entire airport into a new city district. So like just the runway is 3 kilometers long. So you can imagine like the scale of this project. So in terms of the project of this will not be finished by the end of City Loops, but a lot of this thinking has been influenced by City Loops. So the Bordeaux has taken a very different approach where they procured a challenge where they picked 3 companies, architects and engineering firms, to work for 3 months to develop a concept for the new city district and airport. So they were really open and trying to look for new ideas of how to do this. The architects have used this 3D visualization tools, as you can see, to look at different scenarios and what would be the actual impact of the city. So before procuring the solution, they were really trying to look at all the options. They had a very good cross-departmental collaboration because it was really the circular economy experts, the building engineers, and the procurement department that came together. And this has led to the city updating its procurement strategy to include circular economy ambitions in it. And they also had this collaboration with people in the sense that they use 3 master's theses to provide inputs into the project. And they just showed that they were really willing to try something new and bold, but they didn't have all the answers. So they really tried to talk to as many people to find solutions. For example, in the current military airport that I had the chance to visit, you have these bunkers that are under a hill, so with these big sealed doors. So they don't really know how to reuse that. So they're really looking for creative solutions across the board. So this is one example.
Thank you for this example. And I think that's you highlight a very important learning there of the importance of kind of bringing together multiple actors in this. So when we talk about procurement, it's very common to think about the tender documents, the criteria, but to really use procurement as a tool to scale the circular economy, it's important to look at it from a more holistic perspective. So taking into consideration the whole process, working with the market, working with the users. And this is also something that we have looked at quite a lot in this ProCirc project on how can we bring together the full organizations to support this. So it's not just about the tender criteria and the selection criteria of this. And this is something that, Alexandra, you were quite involved with. So maybe you can share a bit where these conclusions came from and also the work on the methodology that you have been developing.
With pleasure. Well, ProCirc was set up to implement, experiment, and learn about how circular procurement can benefit the North Sea region of Europe. That circular procurement is a vital component of the circular economy, I think we can all agree on. To achieve circular procurement, organizations must shift their mindset towards the circular economy, because circular procurement requires procurers to change their procurement practices from the way requirements are specified to the criteria used to evaluate suppliers, procurers to think beyond price and for quality to include sustainability criteria. It also requires collaboration and innovation across the whole value chain, where procurement organizations really need to work close with manufacturers, with suppliers, with customers to design the circular products and services that are sustainable and meet consumers' needs, where there needs to be training and education to build the necessary skills and knowledge within procurement departments and throughout the organization. It involves educating staff on the benefits of circular procurement, on how to incorporate it in your procurement processes, and how to evaluate your circular products and services. From ProCirc, we have also learned that circular procurement is not just a buzzword anymore. It's really a feasible reality, but the whole organization needs to come to realize that circular procurement cannot be done by that department alone. The importance of having the whole organization on board can really not be overstated. It is a collaborative effort from the financial department, the legal department, the internal clients, and also the higher management. It is not just about purchasing products that are environmentally friendly. It is about adopting a more holistic approach towards circularity. Procurement is also strategically important because by supporting circular entrepreneurs, you can really play a significant role in promoting the circular economy. The holistic and simultaneously supporting policies are necessary for a successful circular procurement, and these policies should not only focus on the procurement, but also on what comes before and after it. Think of training, follow-up, and getting the entire organization on board. Many organizations recognize and embrace the importance of sustainable and circular procurement, but yet very often it remains a challenge to translate these circular ambitions into concrete circular actions and a thorough transformation. For this reason, within ProCirc, we have developed a guidance for organizing a circular change management process for your procurement department. A change management methodology is used to help the procurement department identify the behavioral bottlenecks associated with a certain circular goal. And learning from these bottlenecks and opportunities, the team will be guided in defining customized and hands-on actions to remove certain barriers. At the end of the workshop, the team will have a draft action plan, and the action plan can be used in conjunction to the transformation canvas, also developed within ProCirc. We already had 2 of these workshops and reactions have been really positive. Thank you.
Thank you, Alexandra, for this introduction of the work and the lessons learned in ProCirc on organizational change. So as you can see here also, the topic of circular procurement and the ambition to accelerate the circular economy through procurement, it really needs to cover the full span. So we will discuss this a bit more also in a session that we have tomorrow on policy recommendations. But what we found is really that on one hand, we need procurement regulation and policies that facilitate circular economy, that gives room for this. In the next session today, we will talk about innovation procurement, which is one part of it. And we also need sector-specific regulation that can bring up the basic level of products and goods and services that are purchased by public organizations. And I know that a lot of the public administrations today are trying to do this. In Hamburg, we also have some examples of this. You have your green procurement guidance that is now being transferred into sustainable procurement guidance. So I would like you to give a few examples on how you work with this from the city of Hamburg. So I don't know who will take the floor.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, we have since 2016 those green procurement guidelines for the city of Hamburg, and it's like updated every 2-3 years, and they will transfer it now in a sustainable procurement guideline with more focus on circularity. And also in the Ministry for Environment, Climate, Energy and Agriculture, where they are responsible for those guidelines. They have now a position for a person who is just dealing with circular economy. So this topic is more and more present in the city administration. And yeah, there are some examples, like just a few weeks ago or some days ago, there was a press release that on recycling paper, and like the city of Hamburg, or it was with different regions in Germany, and city of Hamburg has now a recycling quota of more than 90%, or using more than 90% of recycled paper in the city administration. And yeah, how we handle it, we have like 5 centralized teams in the city administration, like focusing on different areas of procurement, because then when you buy it is you have a bigger volume and you have a bigger market power to when you buy the different goods. Yeah, I think this is yeah, maybe one other good example is we have stores for products like furnitures and stuff like this, which we don't use anymore in the administration, and then they get repaired, and also we get goods from recycling centers, and then and people can buy it secondhand, so it's much cheaper, and it's used again, so it's not thrown away. And in the beginning it started with 3 people, and now there are 70 people employed there, because it's like, yeah, there are 2 very big stores in the city, and yeah, those are maybe 2 examples of how we use it.
Perhaps I can add that these shops are run by the city-owned waste management company Stadtreinigung, and they have set up these stores, and they don't only sell furniture, they also sell clothes and toys for children, and cutlery, and mugs and cups, and you can really go there. It's quite fun, actually. And yeah, and I think that's a very good example, really down to earth, how circularity can function, and this has been yeah, set up by the city. It's not so much to do with procurement in this case, but it in our position, or in our mind, the city has to have a front runner role when it comes to sustainable or green procurement, and these are examples also for showing the citizen how things can be done and how initiatives can be supported in this context.
Sorry, I forgot the microphone. It does have to do with procurement, because something that we've also been discussing in the context of procurement is that maybe the best solution is not to procure at all. Can we find a way to keep the products that we have in the loop for a longer period? Then that's what creates the biggest impact. But how do you do this as a city? And of course, you need logistical systems that can facilitate this. So it does bring this in. I know from Helena, you work quite a lot with different cities on supporting them on public procurement and circular procurement. Do you have any specific recommendations for a city to get started on working with circular procurement, or including circular principles in their work?
Yeah, there's quite a few things that they could do to get started. So we can see with SEPs, ICLEI databases, that there's lots and lots of examples and case studies already on how cities have started to procure green or more circular in different product categories. So you can always look at what has been done and try to improve and start pilots. I think to get buy-in from your mayor or your municipality, it's easier to start with maybe low risk but higher impact product categories to test and see if the approach works. So don't go for the massive scale airport project, but maybe start with something smaller and more achievable, like furniture, or these are like quite good pilot examples. I would say talk to different departments, get different people on board. One good example in city loops, the city of wioth in Denmark have this cross-departmental sustainability group where they meet once a month and exchange best practices of what they're doing and the different projects that they're working on. So that has really created momentum in the city. When focusing on procurement, I would say to engage the market earlier and try to meet the market where they're at now, and maybe have a roadmap or some kind of outline of how the criteria can evolve over time. So you can give the market a heads up of where direction they should go and what they should prepare. But if you start with too ambitious criteria, saying you need bio-based fibers that are very specific, for example, you might put off the market. So it's really starting where they're at. And yeah, and just keep trying. You know, change is not easy.
Thank you for this. A very good message. Keep trying. We have a few questions that are also posted through the Slido. I encourage you, if you have more questions, to also share those. And the first question, I think, is very relevant. So how do you avoid the typical focus on highest value for the lowest price? So how do you, I think this goes a bit into the work that we've done in ProCirc also with organizational change and the circular transition roadmap. We need to evaluate on price versus quality, of course, but if you bring the whole team together, I think there are opportunities there. Alexandra?
Yes, I think I can go a bit into that. In this case, I think it's really important to really go into dialogue with all the relevant stakeholders that have a say. As I said, the whole organization needs to be involved. It's really go into dialogue with your internal clients, with your suppliers, and have a feel on what the market can provide and what they can see in the future that they will be able to provide in the long and in the short one, and really get your needs and ambitions communicated really clearly and start from there.
Maybe I can add something. We have in the procurement guidelines something where you can calculate along the life cycle or lifetime of the product. It's not like the cheapest or a product you have to buy, but then you take into account the energy usage, how long can you use the product, and so on. So then at the end you don't have just like the price 50 euro versus 100, but then you have over the whole life cycle. So that's important, and we have, or our procurement departments have those Excel sheets where they can really show and prove like what is really the lifetime cost of the product.
Yeah, that's a very important tool in this regard, the opportunity to use life cycle costing as a part of the procurement.
I can have one addition. Within Circular Flanders, we have developed a circular ambition chart, which really is a very useful tool in those dialogues. It gives you the goals and strategies to fill them in. It's about reducing materials and the ways you can start off the conversation on how the suppliers and the internal clients would be able to adhere to that. So maybe we can share this afterwards. I think it's a really relevant tool.
Yeah.
We actually have several. So there's the Sustainable Procurement Platform, where there's a resource center, and then ICLEI manages the European Commission help desk on green public procurement. So every month we have new case studies coming out, so quite a few things.
Thank you. Yeah, so the question was on platforms for sharing cases on green public procurement. A lot of case studies from the ProCirc project with the tools and methodologies that Alexandra has mentioned today as well.
Maybe one small thing. We have a LinkedIn group called Circular Procurement Learning Network, where we have a really big community of more than 1,000 members who communicate in all languages about developments in the Department of Circular Procurement. So we would like to invite all of you to join. It would be great.
I think we have the time for a few more questions. There was a question on monitoring. It's indeed a very important topic. And the question is, do you monitor the impact of the circular procurement in the city region? So I think this might be for Hamburg. So you have the goals, but how do you monitor this?
Well, Sabine can add if I'm wrong, but as far as I know, there's not much evaluation going on. That's the downside, really, of it. There is theoretically there are these guidelines, but there's always a way around these guidelines, and there's not much control, not much monitoring on that. So it really comes down to people being ready to do this and to be enthusiastic about it. Yeah, but in reality, there's always a way of circumventing it, so to speak. Yeah.
Yeah, the city tries to, like, there are training sessions for all procurement or for all procurers. So, and I talked to one colleague in the procurement department, and she said that also the suppliers are getting more and more involved in, like, they're getting certified with special certificates and so on. So the consciousness about this topic is rising, and yeah, so people are more and more aware. But yeah, the monitoring is really difficult, I think.
Thank you for this. I think indeed this is one of the questions that are coming now. We had the encouragement from the start to start and try and put out these tenders and procurements, and then now we see that we have a lot of contracts, and now we are questioning, how do we monitor the impact of this? How do we measure the impact of this? What do we compare with as a baseline for these? And these are all questions that everybody that is working on circular procurement at the moment is trying to address, and there are a lot of different methods to do this, comparing to standard databases of standard products and goods, or comparing to your previous procurement, for instance. Something that we have also seen as important in this regard is to involve the contract managers. So on one hand, you have the procurers, but who will later manage a contract when it is already signed, to also include it in their role to actually follow up with the suppliers on the results of this procurement. So if you sign a framework agreement on circular ICT, but then your staff, every time their phone breaks, they go and ask for a new one, what's the impact then? So how do you also make sure that everybody use the contracts in the way that they are intended to? I think we have a few more questions. Let me see, they move around a little bit. Maybe you have some examples also from ICLEI on monitoring? No? There was a question here, like, so if you purchase circular, do you orchestrate the whole circular value chain? So including the elements like new business models, adaptation, and rest value?
Maybe usually, like, when you procure, you are engaging your first tier supplier. Before a project that we worked on last year called the ethical procurement of ICT, we saw that the city of Stavanger is working with their first tier suppliers to look across the value chain of how the products are produced and if they meet labor rights and working standards, etc. So like that, you can also, using that method, trace back. But also for circularity, it can be helpful. So there are ways that cities are starting to do this, but it's quite a hard process to do, to be honest.
Maybe a small note. We had various pilots within the ProCirc project, and there has really been made an effort to measure impact. We looked at reducing CO2, reduce waste, and also reduce the use of virgin materials. What was really important there on the measuring part is to really define your KPIs early, before the procurement process. So maybe that's one lesson learned I can share on that. So really make it clear from the beginning what you want to measure and how.
Thank you. I'm not sure for who this question is, but there is a question that says, do you think these projects could have more reach and scalability if they were managed by startups and not cities? I guess it's a hard question to answer.
Yeah, I give it a try. Well, it's not really, perhaps not really an answer, but in Deciso, we do have a pilot in Hamburg. We're one of the pilot cities, and the pilot that we are doing, that we are going to pitch later on with the posters next door, is about trying to identify funding instruments and as a city, and the city has funding agencies as well. We have an investment bank for the city of Hamburg and other tools, funding organizations, and they are trying to fund startups. And of course, we are funding startups that do circular economy. So it may not be the city who is very proactive or who is scaling up a lot, but we are in touch with organizations or startups. Enterprises who are perhaps more agile and able to scale up things.
Thank you for this answer. I think it also relates to the previous question of the city of Malmö, of also reaching scale of the solutions that you have, and how can you work with startups and including them, which we will, I think, discuss a bit also in the next session. I think we have a few, I don't have more questions on the Slido, but we have a few more minutes before we close this session and go into the break. Maybe a short comment from each one of you, starting with the city of Hamburg. And maybe you can say just a few words on what's your vision or your next steps when it comes to circular economy and circular procurement.
Vision, or my vision, would be to have more people engaged. Alexandra had this this sentence in her introductory slide that it needs only one person to mobilize, but yeah, it starts with one person, but it's always easier if you get more and more people involved. So get people more aware of circularity and resource efficiency, really, as a broader topic, because not everything can be cycled. Yeah, get more people involved, get more people enthusiastic to put this topic forward.
And yeah, my hope is that, like with Deciso, and we also have other projects in circular economy, that we will just have more people informed about the topic, and also in the ministry for environment, and with this new person in charge of just circular economy, then we will also have a huge impact, and with the new sustainable procurement guidelines. So I hope that those will have a huge impact.
We did get one more question here. I'm not sure if anybody has an example of this, but there is a question if you have monetized the CO2 emissions in a procurement process. Have you seen those examples? Okay. Then let's go on to the final comment, I think from Circular Flanders, from Alexandra. So what do you think, what is the first step for an organization to become more circular? What's your final word there?
Well, as the code said, it just takes one person to initiate change. Well, implementing circular procurement requires organizational and behavioral change, which involves a shift in mindset, collaboration across the whole value chain, training, education, leadership, commitment, incentives and rewards, monitoring and reporting. But with the right strategies and policies, circular procurement is feasible, and you can achieve it and contribute to building a more circular future economy. So I really want to emphasize that it is the initiation of one person that can get the ball rolling, and to get the whole organization on board is really so important. Yeah.
think we have come to the end of the panel. I was going to ask if Helena, you had a final word to say as well. Yeah.
A lot of things in circular economy is all about collaboration. And one other thing I would like to add is, as the saying goes, like, if you do tomorrow what you did today, you'll get tomorrow what you have today. So with circular economy and the scale of the transition that we're doing, you have to be ready to try things different, work differently, work with different people. So I think, yeah, change is not easy, but it's worth pursuing.
Great, thank you for those words. I think with this we will close off this session. So collaborate, try, just get started, and we will move forward from here. I think we have a transition also to the next session, which will be on bridging between public procurement and private investments, where Sarah Bodin will be leading and talking about pre-commercial and innovation procurement. And I think this session starts at 11. Is this correct?
Yeah, thank you very much, Camilla, and your panel. We go indeed for a short coffee break. Let's meet back here, German efficiency at 12 sharp, and go on with the next interesting panel on investment.